typically what happens is salesperson or salespeople come to you as a sales manager or sales director, and then they request or require adjustment to the pricing. So how to address this one? If you give such a big discount, then the clients would learn that you're just giving away discounts, and they will also tell to their colleagues, other clients, that you are in a way weak in that area, and it's enough to push you a little bit, and you start to giving discounts. And as a company, you don't want to allow that. Make it a bit more difficult for your salespeople so that they consider negotiating and persuading externally to the client in the first place, and then if that's not enough, then that's the place where they come to you, being their superior, to consider additional price adjustments. Welcome again on the next episode from the series about managing B2B pricing formula. So as a reminder, my name is Wojciech. I'm pricing expert. I've been doing pricing for many, many years. And as you might recall from last time or times, I was not believing in any magic in pricing, but then I realized that actually there might be some magic if you apply the formula I was explaining last time, and I will continue to explain today over and over again. And if you do that in a consistent way, then the magic happens. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is to go to the next part of the formula, because last time I was explaining the first part of the formula, and the formula reads like 3D plus 2C plus BA. Okay, and in last episodes I explained the 3D element. So the 3D element is about three-dimensional pricing logics. Why three-dimensional? Because there are three dimensions of the pricing logic. The first dimension is about the product, and the second dimension is about the client, and the third dimension is about the order. So we have product pricing logic, client pricing logic, and other pricing logics. Okay, and that's the foundation of the optimization of the pricing. If you want to have it in a structured, organized way, then the pricing logic is the foundation. But then what happens is that you might have the logic, and you might expect, okay, since I have the logic, then everything should be solved. And in principle, yes, but with some caveat. And the caveat is the following: that the logic should be relatively simple and transparent. So you don't want to over-engineer that. You don't want to over-complicate the logic. And if so, you will not be able to cover all the specificities, all these special cases in the logic, because if you wanted to do so, the logic would be very, very complex, and if so, maybe too complicated, and if too complicated, maybe not even applied in practice. And you don't want that, okay? You want the logic that is relatively simple and applied in reality, because when you apply the logic, then the magic happens. So if that's the case, and you would expect that the logic would be working like in 80 or 90% of the cases, there will be cases, special cases, where you could think about deviations from the pricing logic or adjustments to the pricing logics. And for such cases, you also need some structure. And this what I'm going to talk about today. The two principal control mechanisms are the following. The first one is the process to manage price exceptions. Okay, because if you don't manage price exceptions, then the exception might become a rule, and that's not what you want. So Again, coming back to last episodes and what I was explaining in the pricing logic, you have the parameters, the attributes, and there are usually a couple of attributes for each of the dimensions. So you would have a couple of parameters, attributes in product pricing logics, a couple in client and other pricing logics. So, and last time I was also explaining that there should be one or two parameters or attributes would not be enough. Would not be enough to capture and extract all the value and margin which you desire. But then if you were to apply 10 or 15 parameters or attributes per dimension, that would be way too many. So you try to find the balance between simplicity and complexity. And again, because of that, you might not be covering all the special cases. And for the special cases, exactly the exception management is designed to address those exceptions. Okay, and again, why so? Because you might have exceptions, you might have a deviation from the pricing logics, but those exceptions should be justified. If you have too many exceptions, then you might have what we call unjustified price exceptions, and that might be the leakage, the margin leakage, and that might be the element where your margin is leaking, and you want to seal that. Okay, so how to address this one? Because typically what happens is salesperson or salespeople come to you as a sales manager or sales director, and then they request or require adjustment to the pricing. And what does that mean in practice? They say, the client is there and they might be willing to place the order, but then they say that the price is too high, or the rebate, the discount is not big enough to do that. So the sales person saying, give me better price, and they say that internally, give me better price, allow me to increase the rebate or discount, and I will sell. Okay, and then the question is, should you accept that or not, and based on what? Okay, so that's the principle. And some people in some organizations, people think that since I have the pricing logic should be the answer. So the price coming from the pricing logic should be the price, and there should be no exceptions whatsoever. And again, I explained that this might not be the best approach, the best solution, because you might have special cases. And what I mean by special cases? By special cases, I mean that there might be maybe a new potential client which you consider to acquire, to gain, and for that, as a starting point, you might be considering to adjust your price, or the client might be in a special difficult situation because of the financial or liquidity issues, or maybe because they invested a lot recently and they need temporarily some adjustment to the conditions, and you might be open to that. And if that's the case, that might be a reasonable justification of the adjustment. Okay, but you don't want the situation when the salesperson from your organization comes to you and says, there is a client, there is a potential order. I just need a better price, and give me 1, 2, 3, 5, or maybe even 10 additional percentage points of rebate or discount, and I will sell. So what they are doing actually, they are negotiating internally rather than negotiating or persuading the client externally. And for that, and why do they do that in first place? Because if that's easier, easier internally to persuade, to negotiate better conditions, then they will do that. Why not? if that's easier than to go out and persuade and negotiate with the client. The salespeople, smart people, usually they will try to do that and then even overdo that. And what you want to do with the control mechanism regarding the price exception management, you want to make the whole thing for your salespeople a bit more difficult, so that they need to put some effort to explain and justify why the price exceptions is really needed. Okay, so that's the principle, and then how it goes. So usually, once you have the pricing logic, you would have the price recommendations for a given product, for a given customer, for a given order. The pricing logic would provide you with this price recommendation, and the price recommendation might be, let's say, for the sake of simplicity, 100 euros or dollars or whatever the currency is. Okay, and you present that price to the client, and the client is saying, "Oh, I would buy from you, but not for 100, rather for, let's say, 95 or 96." And what do? Do you accept? And then, of course, if you're a good sales person, you would persuade, provide the argumentation, value argumentation, benefit argumentation, and that's something I will talk about in the next episode. But still, the client might be, yeah, that's all fine, but I need what they call better price. And then, eventually, if you were to give a concession to the client, you would need to consider, does it make sense? Is it okay in that particular situation? And for that, you would need to define, first of all, the playground for the salesperson as such. So what kind of additional rebate, discretionary rebate, or a discount they might be giving to their clients. And that's usually, or that should be not too big. Okay, and depending on the business and the manufacturing business, that might be up to, let's say, 5 percentage points, and the distribution wholesaling business that will be a bit lower, because the profitability and margin in those types of businesses usually are different. So in distribution wholesaling business, that would be 2, maybe 3 percentage points. Okay, so that's the playground for the salesperson. But what if the expectation from the client is bigger, over the 3 or 5 percentage points? Then someone else would need to accept that, and the someone else usually is the next in the rank. So usually that would be the sales manager. Okay, and if this additional 7-8 percentage points is not enough, that might go over, let's say, over 10 or 12 or 15, whatever the level is, percentage points, that might require yet another level of approval, and that would be usually someone on the level of sales director. And that's not enough. And if that's not enough, and a bigger discount rebate, even better price is needed, then eventually that might require the approval from the board, from the management, or from CFO, or from managing director. That would be the typical sequence of events, as we call them, the instances of approval of price exceptions. Okay, and first of all, so you would, if you were to manage the price exceptions in a structured way, you need to define what are the levels. Okay, so and that could go like, that's the pricing price from the logic. The playground from the salesperson is up to, let's say, for the sake of simplicity, up to -5%, and then up to -10% is the sales manager, up to -15% is sales director decision, and below that would be the managing director decision. So that's one way of doing that. The other way of doing that would be, okay, the first level, the first area would be 5% for the salesperson, but then for the sales manager would be up to 10 percentage points above minimum price or minimum margin. And for the sales director, up to 5 percentage points above the minimum. And for the MD, that might be to the minimum, or even in a very, very special cases below minimum, if you at all allow that. Okay, so that how it goes. But still, that might be too simplistic. And why? Because sometimes it's not only about the additional rebate or discount, because the additional rebate or discount might be even limited. That could be a couple of percentage points. But the size, the volume of the order or sequence of orders might be so big, so huge, that the impact on the profitability, on the margin of the organization might be very, very big. And in such cases, it makes sense to combine the two elements. So the percentage of additional rebate or discount with the size of the volume order or the client. Okay, because again, relatively limited additional rebate, but applied over big volume, that's a big impact on the overall margin of the organization. So for such cases, it would be good to take those two elements into account, and the process might go like I'm presenting you on this simple chart. So the sales person, sales manager, submits the request for price adjustments. And that it would be good if there was a template defined for this. Why? Because if there is no template, usually what happens? Salesperson writes an email or calls their boss saying, you know what, there is this client, this order, I would sell it only if I got the better price. So give me additional percentage points of rebate and I will sell that. And what does the sales manager or sales director or head of sales do? I don't know. Yeah, okay, go for that. But wait a minute. Maybe yes, maybe not. Don't do it that simple for your salespeople. Okay, let them explain you and justify these price exceptions. So and that's what I mean by a template. So in the template, they should first give a reason for price exceptions, and the reason being, okay, defend the client because of the fierce competition. That's the usual case. But what does that mean? So what changed in the situation in the competitive landscape? Does competition give lower prices? Because of what? Because of the change in the cost of manufacturing, or maybe because of a lot of products being on stock? What is the reason? And so, competitive or change in the competitive landscape, or maybe some special or different behavior of selected competitor. That could be one reason. The other reason might be you might have internally indeed a lot of products on stock and you want to kind of get rid of them, and for that you would be more open and allow additional discretionary rebates or discounts. So that could be a secondary. And the third reason could be, as I mentioned, a special situation of a given client being in temporary troubles because of something, and then if you were to keep the long-term relationship, you might be considering this price adjustment. Okay, so first in the template would be the reason. Then the second is how big the price exception or additional rebate or discount, and then here it would be good to challenge your people internally, because very often the additional rebates or discounts are like in jumps. So 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. And wait a minute, between 5 and 10%, there is a lot of space. There could be 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, okay? And even up to 5%, that might be 1%, 1.5%, 2%, 3%, 3.5%. So there is a lot of playground, a lot of different levels of those additional rebates or discounts to be applied, okay? So the second would be, what's the level of additional discount or rebate? And the third one would be how much margin you need to invest in order to get this additional volume or defend the volume or get the additional revenue or defend the revenue. And what I mean by that, okay? If you say that without this additional discount or rebate, you will lose or your sales person is saying that without that they will lose the order or maybe even the client. What size of the impact would that mean? Okay, so because it would not make that much sense to give additional 10 or 15 percentage points for a very small order, and an order like one-off order. Why would you do that? But you might be more willing or more open to give additional percentage points, for your big client, and maybe for the order they would place if the order is very special in terms of size, so very big order. Then you might, in the logic, you might not even have another threshold for such a big order to consider additional percentage points. And this particular case, that might be actually the situation. So you might be open to consider that. So those three elements would be needed in this template, okay? And then the sequence might go like this, depending on the percentage of the rebate and or discount and the size of the impact. That this template might be reviewed by the direct supervisor, superior, meaning sales manager or head of sales. And if the impact is big enough to be revised by someone else, like CFO or head of finance, then it goes up. And eventually, if the order, if the size of the volume or the client placing the order or a series of order is so big that it requires validation from the board or managing director, then it goes there. Okay, and after revision, if the justification is good enough, it gets approved. If not, then it goes back to the salesperson to say, okay, you will not get this one. Go and negotiate, or you might be even. It might be even okay from the company's perspective to lose this particular order because it's too small to give such a big discount, because if you give such a big discount, then the clients would learn that you're just giving away discounts, and then next time they will come and just ask for discounts, and they will also tell to their colleagues, other clients, that you are in a way weak in that area, and it's enough to push you a little bit, and you start to giving discounts. And as a company, you don't want to allow that. Okay, so the price exceptions process and escalation is meant to revise and validate, and not always accept the requirements for the price exceptions, which happens in some companies. In some companies, there are a lot of price exceptions in first place, and then the sales managers or head of sales, what he or she does is just accepting hundreds and at times even thousands of requests from price exceptions. That's not what you want. So, and again, coming back to the pricing logic should be constructed in a way that it addresses 80, 90, 70 something percent of the cases, and then only a smaller portion of the cases would require some additional validation or additional consideration, and that would be the price exceptions. Okay, so this is about how you should address and how you should go about the price exceptions in your organization. So that's the first control mechanism. Don't let it go as it goes in many times in your organization. There is a request, and this request is accepted almost automatically. No, make it a bit more difficult for your salespeople so that they consider negotiating and persuading externally to the client in the first place, and then if that's not enough, and it really if they cannot sell externally with the conditions given by the pricing logic, then that's the place where they come to you, being their superior, to consider additional price adjustments. Okay, and once you have that in place, it's good to track what is happening. And that's the second control mechanism. And what I mean by that is to control what is the behavior of the prices, the transactional prices or realized prices versus the target prices or the prices coming from the logic. And to illustrate that, I'm showing you this this chart, and this is very typical analysis which you can apply. And what it says is, here you have the target prices, so the prices coming from the logic, and here you have the realized prices, so the transactional prices. And what might happen that the target price might be 120 and the realized price is 110, somewhere here. Okay, so the realized price, the transactional price, is lower than the target. Okay. And if so, and if on this chart each dot is a transaction, you would have some dots above this consistency line. Consistency line meaning that the realized price is equal to target price. And you might say, oh, that's bad because I'm selling below my targets. Yes, it's not ideal, but when you start implementing the new logic, especially new logic, that might be the case. The more important thing is that the delta, so the difference or the average difference between the target and the transaction or the realized price, it's getting smaller. So that would tell you that you start applying the logic, and the starting point might be, let's say, 3, 4, up to 5 percentage points of a difference. But over time, it should get smaller. So it should go to 3, 2, 1, 1.5 percentage points. Eventually, you might always have some residual delta, and that's okay. Because, as I said, there will be some special cases, some situations where you need these adjustments. But more important is that the delta, the difference gets smaller. And if you observe that, you can observe that over time, and then also by cohorts of your clients. So you look at the new clients, at the existing clients. Typically, with the new clients, it should be easier to implement that because new clients didn't know your previous pricing logic. Existing clients might be used to some different prices from the past, and it requires sometimes to move them to the new pricing logic, and that's okay. So that's one of the example of how you can track your pricing performance. Then the other charts would be look at what share of your business, of your volume revenue is sold at the prices coming from the logic, and what share of those transactions, volume, revenue is going through exceptions. Okay, and as in this particular illustrative example, you can start from as high as 40, maybe even 50% of your volume revenue going through the exceptions. But then over time, this share goes down 40, 30, 25, 20%, and that's okay. That's where you observe that it goes in the right direction. So that's one of the useful and charts to follow. But then another one I wanted to mention is let's observe, let's have it clear and to see how much margin did you or do you invest in order to defend or to get additional volume or revenue. And that's very often a wake-up call for the people in the organization, because if they don't have such a graph, such an analysis, they say, okay, I accepted the price exceptions, we got the volume, we got the revenue, it's fine. But then if you look at the graph, at the analysis as this one, you realize, okay, I gained or I might gain additional volume and revenue, but in order to do that, I need to invest some of my margin, and the margin might be significant. That might be a couple of thousands of euros, a couple of hundreds of thousands of euros, or maybe in some cases and some big companies that might be a couple of million of euros. And then you start to consider, is it okay? Does it make sense in the mid-term run, long-term run? Yes or no? Okay, so that would be another example. But then those were a couple of examples how you can track the price performance in terms of price exceptions. But this is not only about price exceptions. So the second control mechanism is, if you want to track pricing performance, do that in a structured way, starting from the overall profitability, then looking or zooming into the product categories, the profitability, and then zooming into customer profitability. So looking at the segments of the clients, categories of the clients, and each of the clients, how profitable they are. Then you would have typically an element of adherence to policies and also looking at the exceptions. So that's exactly what I have been explaining now. And then it would be good if you had some type of simulation functionality in terms of what would happen if I apply this and this level of additional rebates or discounts. How much more volume revenue would I need to gain in order to cover the gap coming from this additional rebate or discount? Okay. So those are the typical analysis in the pricing analytics space. The most important thing is that because now with the BI tools, BI systems, and lots of data and that data lakes, data warehouses, many companies have a lot of data. And in some companies, the data is used to produce a lot of analysis, a lot of graphs. But then the big question is, why why am I looking at something, at an analysis? Does it help me to make a decision? If not, it's interesting. The really good pricing analysis is as such that helps you to supports you to make a decision. And the pricing decisions are the following: should I keep the price? Should I lower the price, or should I increase the price? Those are the type of decision you need to make. And should I do that for the product, for the customer, for a given order, or for the given situation? And for such, you are looking for the answer for such questions, and if the analysis helps you to make such a decision, then it's a good analysis. Otherwise, it's just interesting. Okay, so that's in principle it regarding the two control mechanisms. So again, price exceptions management and escalation process, and on the other side, this is pricing performance tracking. And for the second one, usually the question is, should I do that in using the very simple tools like even Excel or maybe simple BI, or should I go for something more professional or more specialized? Here, there is no one answer. Why not? Because there are two elements to consider. One is the new tool, the new system usually requires some investment in terms of money, time, and energy of people. And at the beginning, usually the investment is high. And then the gains might not be that big, because that depends. There is a learning curve, the adoption curve. So depending on the complexity of your business, of the discipline of in your organization, it might justify going for a special tool or not. So I have even structured that in a way that there are a couple of points to consider while making decision whether to stay with the simple tool or simple solution or go to the professional one. And I made even a webinar on that. So go to our webpage, movensadvisory.com, and there is one of my webinars is about that. So if you wanted to go deeper in that topic, you will find a webinar about that. Here I'm just saying that don't think that a new tool will solve of your problems. First of all, and the most important thing is, if the analysis helps you to make decisions, and those decisions I mentioned, should I keep the price, lower the price, or increase the price, that might be okay. All right, so that would be about 2C, so middle part of the pricing formula. So that would be it for today. Next time, what I'm going to do, I will address the last part of the magic formula, meaning BA. So I will be talking about the value argumentation and benefit argumentation, also linked with the negotiation and price negotiation with the clients. So stay tuned. That will come soon. For now, thank you very much, and see you next time.